Switching gears to the Atlanta Falcons, we've talked a lot about Drew Dalman. He's the one free agent, the high-priced free agent that is going to hit the market. And the Falcons obviously are going to place a high priority. When we talk about the offensive line, it's the one strength of this team that's been there, whether it was Arthur Smith, whether it was Raheem Morris. It has been the one building block that you can rely on year after year. And that continuity has been so valuable to this team. But you said it before we started this segment. And we've said it a million times, and I know you guys out there are thinking that follow this team. At some point, you have got to start putting those resources towards the defensive side of the ball. Jeremy Fowler said he thinks Drew Dalman could get top 3 center money. I'm not sure if he's worth that, especially when you saw what Ryan Nuzil was able to do when he stepped in, and he's going to cost absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, vet men. I mean, that is, and that's $13 million, a little under $13 million, the difference between a vet min and what a top 3 center would get paid in terms of average annual value. And, maybe Drew Dalman isn't a top 3 center. I don't think he is, but it's not really about what you are. It's about when you're hitting the free agent market. We see it time and time again where the top quarterback, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback, or Josh Allen, or, none of those guys are the highest paid. Like Dak Prescott's the highest paid quarterback in football, and he's nowhere near the best quarterback. It's all about how you play your cards. Drew Dalman is hitting free agency at the perfect time. There is nobody out there, for a guy, Ryan Kelly is the next best center, and he missed, I think, like 12 games or something last year. He missed a lot of time last year. So it's really Drew Dalman, and then it's everybody else, unless you want to go and find a rookie in the draft. And there's not this guy, a clear-cut first-round pick that, you really feel good about coming in and stepping in for a team that has playoff aspirations. And, what you said to begin the segment is important. Like, continuity is important for specifically offensive lines, because it's not 5 guys, it's 1 unit, and you have the opportunity to bring back all 5 guys for the 3rd straight season. That doesn't happen ever, like really ever in the NFL. Teams change all the time. Everybody knows that, attrition, all that stuff. You got to jump on the opportunity. But again, we're not flushed with cash. We don't have all the cash in the world to just go, oh yeah, Dalman, come back. We're going to get a pass rusher, a couple of defensive backs too. We're not flush with cash. And while we can create some cap space, you're doing it at a cost where there is a give and a take, where you can restructure some contracts, but obviously the nitty gritty we won't get into. And eventually the biggest thing is, like, at a certain point, you're going to have to make some concessions. Like, there's a salary cap. We can't just spend infinity money. And the defense has been the problem in Atlanta for as long as I can remember. It's time to start pouring resources into that side of the ball. And I think that I wrote about it today. Go check it out on the site, sportstalkatl.com. Like, there's a real possibility Drew Dalman prices himself out of Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't even think it's necessary. And like I said, I think Ryan Nuzil, I thought he was damn near, for a backup center, about as perfect as you could have asked for. You're not going to get that level of play from a backup center too often. Now, do you want to rely on him? And then you're also thinking about 2025 and 2026. We also have to accept the fact that 2025, with the way that Kirk Cousins' contract is hamstringing this organization, is not necessarily the all-in, season, right?
Agreed.
And so keeping Drew Dalman around this year, knowing you're going to have him next year, and then you start filling in around the defense, could be the easier path than going out and getting a mercenary pass rusher that's not going to be here in the long term, or drafting a guy.
The only issue with that is something we talked with Zeno about, that like Terry Fontenot may be firing his gun with the thought in the back of his head that this might be my last time firing this gun. I'm going to empty the chamber. So yeah, it might not be, I'm going to make decisions in 2025 in anticipation of being here in 2026, which, inherently puts the Falcons in a bad spot.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, you could see Drew Dalman and a bunch of mercenaries.
Yeah.
And then you're really screwed, because they'll probably restructure every single contract. And if some of those contracts turn sour, maybe a guy suffers from a season-ending injury. Listen, it's football that we're talking about. It happens all the time. Well, now he's guaranteed to get paid next year. So that is the scary part about Terry Fontenot. It definitely feels like this is a season where they're going to empty the chamber, because, as much as Terry Fontenot doesn't want to say, hey, listen, I don't care about job status. I don't think about my job that way. You can't, there's no way that's possible. Has any
GM ever gone 5 seasons without making the playoffs and then was brought back for a 6th season? I mean, I don't know. I'm asking genuinely. I don't think that's ever been done.
I don't see a scenario, and I know we talked about Terry Fontenot's job security at length throughout this entire season, but I don't see, I mean, it's got to be the most boiling hot GM seat across the NFL. I mean, but the guy's been through 2 head coaches. He somehow survived the entire Arthur Smith tenure, and he still misses the playoffs on the back.
It's really not even the head coaches.
I mean, shoddy drafting.
Right. I mean, Howie Roseman's gone through multiple head coaches, but guess what? The guy is always in the playoffs.
Yeah, and he's always making good moves and drafting really well and developing really well.
That's another thing that, like, when you draft really well, you don't have to worry about paying the Drew Dalmans, where you're paying a good player great money, because you trust your front office and then your coaching staff to find talent and then develop that talent to replace it at a rate. I mean, that's how you sustain success, which we have obviously not done.
And moving into just a different thing, I think one of the most intriguing aspects of this offseason is what the hell do the Falcons really think they got out of this last year's draft? Like, is Brandon Dorlus, like, in their minds a potential player for this team next year?
Like in the rotation?
Yeah, like, is Rook a starter? Like, do they think they can just say, hey, David Onyemata, see ya, like, we're going to save that $12 million or whatever, and Rook can be our starting defensive tackle? Like, if that's the case, okay, we're at least replacing some players and saving some money that could go to Drew Dalman with one of our rookies. Like, if that's the case, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. So you can pay Drew Dalman.
I mean, carrying on that same conversation, day 2 draft picks, we've got to start hitting Arnold Ebiketie, Troy Anderson, Rook, you said it, Braylon Trice. I know we're still, jury's still out on him, but like the guy, D'Angelo Malone, I know that's a total pipe dream. I can't believe I even said that name, but like, that's what I mean. These day 2 draft picks have to start. I'm not even talking about one of those guys becoming a star, because that's a pipe dream. I'm just talking about, can we get a starter? Can we get a contributor?
Can they play?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the last year's draft class. Nobody played outside of Michael Penix, who waited to the last 3. And obviously, Braylon Trice suffered that injury, and hopefully he can come and at least be a rotational player. But he's also coming off a significant injury, maybe the first one of his entire career. But I think that's a big piece to this puzzle when you're talking about Drew Dalman, is what the hell do they think about those guys? Because you drafted 3 guys across the defense and front that basically did nothing in their first year. Do you think they have a future? Or are they going to be players? Even if they're rotational players next year, maybe you can afford to pay Drew Dalman, but a lot probably hinges on what they think about those guys as well.